Well, for the first time, a U.S. law enforcement officer has been arrested for trying to help a terrorist group. Investigators arrested D.C. Metro Police Officer Nicholas Young today. He's accused of trying to provide material support to ISIS. CBS News Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues has been following this story, and he joins us now from Washington. So, Jeff, I want to ask you, what is the latest on this?
Well, just going through these court documents, and I have them here, and what strikes me is just the detail that went into this investigation. There were undercover informants used, and so there were a lot of recordings as well of this suspect, according to the FBI, and it's all spelled out in this document. It's about 18 pages, and what it talks about is how Nicholas Young, this Metropolitan Transportation Authority police officer, had a lot of knowledge, according to investigators, about how ISIS recruits, how to stay under law enforcement radar. But what is ironic here is that as he's talking about this in some of these recordings, he is on the radar of law enforcement. So he's talking about the methods that ISIS uses to recruit and to fund some of its operations. And meanwhile, he's being monitored by investigators. And so that stands out in these court documents, but also the time that investigators put into this case. They have been following this guy. He's been on their radar since about 2010. And the reason that he was on their radar is because of some of his acquaintances who were being investigated by the FBI. So there is a lot of time that went into this investigation, and so that is spelled out in these documents. Rena?
That's fascinating, Jeff, that the FBI clearly was trailing him and had information and knew about this. What happens next in this case?
Well, he's going to be in court, and so we'll have to see what his attorney or attorneys say about these charges. But investigators also say that he was accumulating an arsenal in his home, that he had several weapons in his home, and also that he had traveled to Libya to fight. And so that is also in these documents. So what is interesting about this case is that there are other cases like this across the U.S., and that we've heard from the FBI director about what is involved in some of these cases, how because of the amount of people that they are looking into across the country, all 50 states at one point, they sort of have to prioritize who they look into first and who they put more resources into. And so this is one of those cases that stands out because of the resources that they were using here. Keep in mind, this is someone who was armed on a daily basis. He was working as a police officer. So if you're in law enforcement, that has to concern you. And then the people that he was associating with. And then, according to these documents that we have, what he knew about traveling to the battlefield in Syria and how to try to stay under the radar of law enforcement. He was telling, according to these court documents, he was telling one person that he thought was an ISIS supporter. Turns out that was someone who was working for federal law enforcement officials. He was telling them, how to join a tour group so you can stay under the radar. And so there is a lot of detail in this case that we're looking into.
Fascinating. They always say about intelligence and law enforcement that they never get credit when they foil an attack or apprehend someone in the nick of time. But this is surely a very, very big get. Jeff Pegues, thank you very much.